know about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have to apologize myself for late arrival, so it's not always easy to get through the Brussels traffic indeed. Well, I think I will echo Mr. Antich's comments about the Energy Charter. We had a very important, fruitful discussion today morning at the Secretariat of the Energy Charter, and we have been very pleased to see a new determination in the Serbian government to do everything possible and necessary to accede to the Energy Charter Treaty, and in the meantime to sign the International Charter Declaration in The Hague. Well, I very much believe that the Energy Charter Treaty is the fundament of European and broader energy cooperation. It has dated back to early 90s, but it's created a fundament on which the European legislation, the first, second, and the third energy package aligned on. And what is even more important, that the Energy Charter Treaty provides a broader interface for not only the European Union member states, energy community member states, but for the countries as distant as Japan, Kazakhstan, which share the same legal framework of cooperation with European Union nations, as well as countries in accession. Hopefully one day, very soon, Serbia will complete the accession process to the Energy Charter. What it will give Serbia if Serbia will accede to the Energy Charter Treaty? I very much believe that it will be from the very symbolic step, because it will be the first Brussels-based institution Serbia will join, hopefully. It will be kind of a strong point on the map. But beyond this, the importance lies in a strong signal to the investment community. We have heard Mr. Dacic mentioning about the activities of the international companies and investors in the energy sector in Serbia. We have heard that the implementation of the European legislation for advanced is on its way. But Energy Charter Treaty provides for investors with additional security. It provides to Serbia instrument to deal with the transit and how to prevent the transit disruptions, which is very important because, as you know, on the pipelines, be it crude oil or gas pipelines, these things happens from time to time. And the Energy Charter provides this early mechanism how to prevent, how to address those disruptions, so to keep the high level of energy security. And last but not least, the also important instrument that the Energy Charter could provide to Serbia is to help address the pressing issue of energy efficiency. Contracting parties to the Energy Charter Treaty, they agreed to provide each other technical and political support in implementing the best available practices in energy efficiency measures, so that the best invested money in the energy sector is always to the energy efficiency, to decrease the consumption of energy. Is the cleanest and more efficient, the most efficient way how to save the energy. So over the area, the Energy Charter Treaty could make a difference for Serbia. So speaking about the capacity building program, what we could offer, and what I did today morning to Serbian delegation, that in the eve of the opening of a chapter on European integration on energy, it will be very handy to have people trained in Brussels, trained in the Energy Charter Secretariat, to be able to cope and to deliver the necessary knowledge back in Belgrade when the important, more difficult negotiation with the European Union will start.
This one works. Thank you very much, Mr. Rusnak, for your contribution. I would like to ask you to stay with us. I hope you can. Because now I would like to move to the second part of our meeting today, which is a panel discussion. And please excuse me, but I will introduce our speakers as it is in the agenda. So during the discussion panel, we will hear a presentation from Mr. Kirill Kravchenko, CEO of NIS. NIS is a Serbia-based refiner, one of the biggest in the region, and the biggest economic operator in Serbia. We do have with us also Mr. Milan Petrovic, who is the president of the Serbian Association of Managers, And we also have two gentlemen representing two private companies. We have Mr. Bratislav Ceperkovic, who is the director for Southeast Europe of Medtech Group, a company that is looking to invest in Serbia, and Mr. Ivan Miletic, director of corporate affairs at Philip Morris Services. Next to NIS, also the biggest operator in Serbia, investing a lot of money on the market there. Let me first start with a question or introduction into the presentation that Mr. Kravchenko prepared for us. Mr. Kravchenko, you've already been in this position, CEO of NIS, over 6 years. Could you maybe tell us how the business environment has changed over this time period? Do you see any positive changes in the market?
Your Excellencies, dear ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank you for this very tough choice. Today, I understand that the person who rather long period of time lived in the Western countries, it's a challenge for you. It's so sunny day that for you, I suppose, it was one of the biggest choices what you had specifically on Friday. So first of all, thank you for coming here and for listening our speeches. At the same time, it will be a choice for me as well, because principally I'm not just a CEO, I'm a professor. I have lectures in different universities around the world. The last one was for Stanford students, for Stanford University students. It took approximately 2 hours. But for today, I prepared just a 5-minute speech. It's a challenge for me, but I will try to follow this challenge. I very briefly, with this small presentation, will try to explain our understanding of the possibilities specifically in Serbia. Despite of that, we are working in the full region, but today we are concentrating on Serbia. So, what we see now in Serbia, I would like to stress at least 4 different areas. First, in general, that we have a rather stable government. Some of ministers sometimes flies, but principally the government is rather stable. And it's, I suppose, the base for the changes. Second, we have a very clear prospect of the EU membership, and I hope that you will help us to join not later than 2020, right? I suppose that you will support such position. The next one, that we have a very low average wages of highly educated labor in our country, excellent geographical position, competitive tax system, and for sure the free trade agreements, not just with the EU, but with other parts of the world. So I think from the economical point of view, it's rather attractive place doing business. The second, that's based on our geographical position, we have a very good infrastructure projects in all different areas, in the transport corridors, in the waterfront, in public-private partnership with Belgrade, in global railway, in new projects. But principally, geographically, it's at the center of Balkan, it's the heart of Balkan. That's why I think that this is a very important factor for development. And what is surprising specifically for me, that first quarter of this year was rather positive for Serbia. We had increase in industrial production, we have increase in import production, in export, in unemployment, and in GDP, by our prediction, positive prediction, must be positive as well. And the last but not least, it's a legal framework. So I think that's the laws, what has mentioned the Ministry of Energy, already on 90% adopted to EU rules. In some cases, I would say, in the energy, 110 is possible, because some regulations now it's rather tougher than in other countries of the region. But principally it's very good because we have now a very predictive future. And looks on the figures, economic trends, we have different deviations within last several years, but now we see that the GDP growth is increasing, inflation decreasing, employment rate increasing. Please record it for the Minister of Energy, despite of he is absent. And the export and import increased as well. So it means that not just our company believe and trust to Serbia, but all other players trust as well. And I give you just a couple of examples from the business. We already invested more than 2 billion euros for last 4 years. And we are planning to invest not less than 3 billion euros into the development of our business. And this is just our money. But besides of all, we attract the money of our partners. For example, in electricity generation, we attract Chinese, Russian, and for sure EU money for co-investing. And I think this sum can be doubled. Why we are doing so? Because we strongly believe that this country really attractive for the doing business. That's why we try to implement the modern EU management system. We collected the people around the full Europe, so we have the international team from 23 different countries. We try to be a technological center for development of the full region. From the creation of geological database for the full Pannonian Basin, what included Romania, Hungary, Croatia, Bosnia and Serbia, up to the implementing the new technologies in the refining and creation of the retail net in our region. And several words about the integration. We fully understand, and my colleagues already mentioned, that Serbia for sure must be the part of EU. But we need to implement something additionally to accelerating this process. That's why we are trying to develop not just in Serbia as in the heart of Balkan, but in the Baltic countries. We implement the different economical connections. For example, we are creating the new technologies in refining and supplying our oil products into the regional countries. But at the same time, we invest in a lot of money in education, because currently we have cooperation with 20 different universities around the region, and just like during last 3 years we hired 700 persons, young specialists from the zero experience up to in our company. In 2009 we have the average age, it's around 40, I would say 6. Now we decreased due to this number up to 37. So I suppose this is very important role, and we really invest in the previous rector of Novi Sad University, I suppose it's here, and I suppose you probably can mention that we really have a good cooperation because we believe in the future of Serbia. And in the end, because I have promised that it will be just 5-minute speech, I would like to stress that Serbia, from our point of view, is a very good place for investment. NIS is just one example how to do business economically reasonable, because we are number 1 by the profit in the region. We have a 15% of the fulfilling the budget of Serbia, and so on and so forth. 5 years ago, we just had a 7% of the budget. So we doubled our participation in the Serbia because we strongly believe in the country, in the development of the country. And we have a couple of suggestions to the Serbia, and we record it for our partners from Serbian government and to the EU, if it's possible. First, we would like to increase the strategic cooperation between big investors and government structures, because we need to enhance special incentives for attracting the big business into our country. We already have some regulations, but I think we still have space for improvement. Second is to involve the business into consultation of changing the regulation and laws. Third is the implementation of existing legislation. For sure, within last year, the government adopted more than 10 very important laws for the country. But at the same time, the most difficult, most changeable thing is how to implement it in the real life. And for sure, we need a clear plan of how to have adaptation, not just for Serbia, but for other countries as Bosnia, Macedonia, how to exceed the process to acceleration and cooperation with the EU. For the EU, as usual, we ask a little bit money for funding infrastructure projects. And for sure, we would like to ask you about the additional role of mediator for cooperation among the countries. Because in some cases, we have problems. For example, excise policy is really different in the different countries. If you adapt this excise policy to the full region pictures, I'm pretty sure that EU and the possible countries just earn from this step. Other example, it's a gray market. For last year, we decreased the gray market in the fuels on 200 million euros. So it means that the government earned additional 200 million euros. But we still have a space for improvements in the full region, specifically in Bosnia, and we have discussed. That's why we have a special request to the Serbian government and to the EU, but again, I will repeat in the end, I strongly believe that the Serbia is one of the most attractive countries in Eastern Europe for doing business. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kac. Very impressive figures, very impressive. I'm sure we'll be talking more about them in a while. But first, I would like to give a word to Mr. Milan Petrovic. Mr. Petrovic, you are representing Serbian business here. You are president of the Serbian Association of Managers. Could you explain us how Serbian business is engaging itself in negotiations, in the accession process with the EU, and what benefits do you see in joining the EU?
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. Actually, I'm coming as president of Serbian Association of Managers, and I'm representing the biggest association for professional managers in Serbia, and not only for government but also for business. It's of high importance to talk and to follow the process of integration of Serbia to European Union. Why? For businesses in Serbia, it's important for two angles, actually, to increase the standards and to implement all the standards of European Union. From one side, we need the market, which will be in the same time transparent and predictive as business climate for domestic and foreign investors. And from another side, for the companies, it's important to implement the highest standard, international European Union and international standards, in order to be competitive not only in Serbia, but to be competitive outside of Serbian borders, in the region and European Union. How the business can influence the process? Actually, there are two dimensions of the view. From one side, companies are in the position to learn what is going to happen in this way of joining European Union. What will affect their businesses? What will be the cost of integration and implementation of the high standards? And second one, it's Actually, from the business side, we believe